Hello and welcome to some more Star Citizen. There are a few videos I'd like to do over the next couple of weeks focusing on different parts of 3.0, mechanics, features, and that sort of jazz more in depth. Today though I want to talk about what's loosely deemed Planetary Landings version 1, which is basically Moonary Landings, and at a stretch goal, the Large Asteroid Delamar and its accompanying hero zone Levski, which we hope is in 3.0 and probably will be, but we'll have to wait and see. So also please bear in mind that as this is the Alpha of 3.0 we're talking about, and it's on the schedule report, the stuff gets moved in and out of that schedule report as well. Some stuff might not make it in, some stuff will get blocked, and some stuff will get pushed into a later patch release. So just bear that in mind when we're talking about it. In 3.0, we are basically getting a remake of the current area around Crusader. It is going to be larger in scale, certainly, and filled with lots more points of interest, as well as being ready for the all-important object container streaming system. It's been set up for that, that's why they had to smash it down and recreate it, and that is the basis of which the rest of the universe effectively will be based on. The moons are going to be our first taste of large explorable objects, though. The procedural technology was effectively feature creep for these. They wanted fully explorable planets and moons in-game, but after release. And it was a bit of surprise that the Foundry 42 Frankfurt studio cracked it so early, leading to the tech demo from Pupil to Planet, as well as the ones that we saw at Gamescom and CitizenCon 2016. Based on the schedule report, we can see that they plan, or at least want to support rotational planets and orbits in 3.0. Now, I was informed during the creation of this video that that is quite a hard thing for them to do. So think of it as aspirationally. If we don't get it in 3.0, then we will see it soon after, hopefully. But rotational planets, day-night cycles, that sort of jazz that's coming with that is pretty exciting. It's going to be interesting to see how it's dealt with in engine and with the physics grids. Do I orbit a planet? Am I geosynchronous? Where do I need to be within a planet's physics grid in a ship to be taken along by its orbit and rotation? We're also going to see waypoints that we're able to see from space on a moon, so we know where to go, but we're also going to be able to freeform fly down to a planet. Entering an atmosphere is going to yield graphical effects. Entry needs to be done safely below certain speeds and at a certain angle. Shields might be needed, otherwise damage to your ship will occur, and not everything's going to be able to enter and exit atmosphere. A dragonfly, for example, will not be able to enter and exit without severe damage. Might be able to in some situations, but they've basically said it'll blow up. Being in atmosphere, if the planetary body or planetoid has one of a moon, planet or planetoid, will affect your ship based on the atmosphere in question, and it will be different per astral body. Gravity as well is planned to affect your ship differently based on the gravity of a planet or moon, but it's not a planned feature for 3.0. Might be in, probably won't be. We'll probably have to wait until like 3.1 or until there are much larger objects where we go, well, this is a mega Earth or super Earth, and this is going to have lots of gravity. Based on the size of your ship, though, you're going to be able to land pretty much anywhere you want on a moon. There may be environmental hazards which prevent you entering or landing in certain areas, in which case you'll have to land nearby and explore on foot, or if you have one or are able to spawn one, like you've landed near a little outpost which has a spawning pad, and you'll be able to spawn an Azure Rover or a Dragonfly or I assume a grey cat buggy or something like that. There are going to be a variety of different points of interest. We may see some constructed outposts, but also these modular outposts. These are the first modular spawning buildings that we're seeing in Star Citizen, and they are procedurally generated and procedurally placed, and can be produced in clusters as well, not just singular structures, but also some of them will get the kind of touch of an artist too, so they'll put some hero assets in there to make them look a little bit different, or to be placed very specifically for missions or something. We're going to see a variety of forms of interiors and exteriors for these buildings, especially interiors. Some of the exteriors look pretty similar, but the interiors are kind of for a purpose. So the plan is for these smaller outposts to pave the way for larger outposts, research stations, towns, and settlements, as well as having functions and providing players with vital services based on the location's needs. Think of them like ships. They're going to have modules for habitation, power, storage, engineering, defense, and all that sort of jazz. And we've seen even defense turrets as well, which I'm hoping we get into the game pretty soon. All of that will interact with the item system 2.0, In 3.0, these outposts might just allow you to go in them and take off your suit after you've, closed the airlock behind you. Once we have the room system, you're going to have to replenish oxygen here and use them for a lot of different things. But again, in 3.0, we're going to be using them for exploration, for missions. There might be loot there, stuff to scavenge. There might be lore there as well. We're also going to be able to use them for ammo and health resupply, that sort of stuff. They will merge into their terrain and look appropriate too. Outposts in the desert will look sand-swept. In icy tundras, they're going to be covered in icicles and that sort of stuff as well. They might also herald other things in that area, such as derelicts and crashed ships, which we will see littered around the ground on some planets. So we're going to see wrecks, we're going to see heavily damaged ships. Maybe some of them might be repairable. But expect to see stuff like javelins in bits. You might find a dragonfly in a box. Starfarers as well are going to be crashed. Lots of other ships. Just expect loot, missions, cargo, that sort of stuff to take back to your ship. Now, there's going to be various missions that are available moonside through 3.0 onwards. We're going to see different quest givers and mission givers. The one mentioned in the schedule report mission-wise that I took note of was the crash site mission. So that obviously goes back to derelicts and crashed ships. I do expect to see lots of different things that you can do on planet side with ambushes and attacking NPCs and that sort of stuff in the future as well. There are lots of fetch missions and stuff that you can do pretty easily for 3.0. Now, NPCs in the FPS and in their vehicle forms on the ground, I do expect to see them with 3.0. They haven't really talked about exactly what we'll have in regards to NPC combat on the ground with 3.0 to 3.2. The schedule report does talk about an FPS ambush version 2 mission for 3.1 alpha, so it stands to reason that there's one in 3.0, a version 1 of that. We've also seen the sand nomads previously, but expect to see outlaws, pirates and stuff like that too from 3.0 onwards on the ground as part of missions, protecting outposts, part of Easter egg hunts, and just kind of guarding the loot. Talking about Easter eggs, expect lessons of Benny's Henge to have been learnt by CIG. They didn't expect players to discover it so easily. There were supposed to be puzzles and such to solve, but players spotted two bright lights around Yella's asteroid field and found that Benny Henge Easter egg really quickly and easily. If you find a data pad that suggests you look in a certain area or you see something interesting, then take a closer look. It might be more than it seems, and it might lead you to some pretty cool Easter eggs, which will get more and more abundant after 3.0 comes out as they try and flesh out more and more gameplay. We're also going to see conflict with other players. One of the design choices for 3.0 is to get players into the same area on planets and areas and space and all that sort of jazz as possible, creating interaction, conflict, and emergent gameplay. Missions, loot, and points of interest will all drive players into proximate zones. You may be on a similar mission to someone else who might even have to prevent you from completing your objective, or they might be looting an item in the same area as you, but not interested in what you're going for. The issue is that you just don't know whether that player is a threat, if they're benign, or if they're useful. This is going to make for some interesting gameplay and player interaction. So, that's the basics of gameplay for the moons and the basic landings that we're going to get for 3.0. But let's talk about the mechanics and kind of, feel of each of those locations, of each of those moons in a bit more detail, because they are a bit different as locations. They do have their own look and feel. Yella is a frigid ice biome moon with incredibly low temperatures, and these are going to create freezing hazards and ice hazards for players. It's littered with crevasses, canyons, cracks, so it's pretty dangerous, and there'll be hints of underwater caves as well. There's cryovolcanoes as well, or cryovolcanoes on the planet's surface, or the moon's surface. These might erupt, causing damage to low-flying craft, but also going to cause injury or death if you're on foot or on a vehicle and they go off underneath you. It's going to be a testbed for snow, ice, blizzards, freezing hazards, some more so suspect as well, and it's going to be beautiful if a little bit isolating. Selin is in kind of direct conflict with Yella. It's a hot, grey rocky planet dotted with volcanoes, and it's kind of reminiscent to Earth's moon with obviously the addition of those volcanoes and geysers. And it's got these thermal geysers around. Again, these geysers will erupt with steam and gas causing damage to anything that's going over them. The surface will be foggy in some places as well, with corrosive clouds that are released from the moon's surface, again causing injury and death. Delamar. Delamar is the most like Mars of the moons currently as well. It has a mixture of mountains and craters, also a very dense atmosphere that leads to fog on the planet, with bright lightning storms as well. And these storms are likely to be the main environmental hazard to the moon. It's supposed to have loose dirt on the surface, making travel quite difficult as well. This is the largest of Crusader's moons as well, and has quite an erratic orbit, and I hope to see that translated into the game. Delamar is certainly the zone that I think I'm actually, or at least the moon, that I'm most excited about. But there's also Levski. So the moons will make use of pretty much all that we've talked about, but there is also going to be extremely high chance that we get Delamar and the Levski landing zone with 3.0 as well. So the original look, the behaviour designed with Levski has evolved somewhat. We saw an early iteration from that at Gamescom's 2016 demo as well. Delamar is a large asteroid, the surface of which is covered with steep, spiky mountains and mountain-like objects, as well as various mining operations, quarries, boreholes, machinery. The Levski landing zone, which is part of Delamar, there's going to have garages that can store and spawn ground vehicles. There's going to be roads and parking zones, as well as vistas to discover. The surface connects to airlocks and a lobby, which then lead down into the heart of that landing zone via elevators, and we've seen that, as I said, in the Gamescom 2016 demo a little bit. Would have evolved a reasonable amount since then. There is going to be other ways to enter the zone as well, via mining tunnels for stealth entry and smuggling missions and that sort of jazz as well. And we should see some interesting shops, some missions givers there, lots of different player interactions do we have there, and it's going to be our first taste of a hero landing zone. Vehicle and ship spawners in some areas of the moons have to be a thing as well. They exist on Levski's landing zones for sure, and there's various mobiGlas apps that have been developed for customization and spawning vehicles too, but I think in some situations you're going to need to call for a rescue in chat, or maybe just respawn. Service beacons will be a thing, allowing us to get player and NPC help for rescue and refuel, but they won't be in until 3.1 unless something magical happens. The persistent universe will be all set up for the object container streaming stuff as well, but we're not going to see the real benefits of that performance-wise anyway until 3.1 and 3.2. PvE creatures and NPCs. So the scope of NPCs and creatures and things that we can fight on the ground will expand over the next few patches too, to more evolved missions, interesting creatures to see, interesting NPCs with lots of different loadouts, spiders, sandworms, sand nomads, lots of different things to do. Weather and environmental hazards as well, they're going to evolve in each of these areas. Each of these locations is going to have their own character in forms of weather and hazards, and that will continue to evolve as we see the patches roll out. There's something else I suppose I better talk about very briefly, the loot and pick up and carry system. So in 3.0, you're able to pick up boxes and move them around. So on these locations, on moons, in some of the ships, in some of the missions, in some of the derelicts, and on some players, I suppose, as well, you're going to physically find items and boxes that you can pick up, take back to your ship, that will be worth Alpha UEC. If it's extremely valuable, it may even be detectable by other players while you're trying to get that item somewhere safe, like we do at the moment with the you kill this person sort of thing in the verse, Most Wanted. Now, I think that's going to be interesting gameplay, just like, oh, has that player got some loot that I can find and steal? And that's sort of like some of the emergent gameplay you're going to get. You're going to get some conflict, you're going to get some, is this person after me? Mining as well will be in the game at some point. Now, it's possible we'll see it in 3.0 with the Prospector coming out with the 3.0 update as well. We'll have to kind of, if we know more in the future, we'll talk about it. But at the moment, it's up in the air exactly where mining is going to land. And that's all I really wanted to talk about. Every month, we give away a ship, and for May, that is an Avenger Titan. All you need to do is be subscribed to my YouTube channels and comment on one of my Star Citizen videos during that month. So tell me, what's your favourite moon at the moment? What mechanics and features and topics would you like to see me do a video on next? Do you have any questions for me or about Star Citizen and its development? A special thank you to my Patreons who allow me to create this amount of content. And if you're interested in becoming one, you can find the links below. Thank you so much, genuinely, guys. It's super appreciated. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the verse.